My name is Audrey, and I came into this world as an afterthought, born to parents who were already in their late 60s and had a successful 42-year-old daughter they considered more than enough. We never planned on having you, my mother Diana would often say during our video calls, not with malice but with a matter-of-fact tone that somehow made it worse. If it wasn't for your grandparents. She'd trail off, leaving the implications hanging in the digital silence between us. The unspoken truth was clear. I existed because my maternal grandparents had convinced my reluctant parents to have another child. Victoria, my sister, was already deep into her real estate career when I arrived. She wasn't cruel, she simply acted as if I didn't exist in our spacious suburban home. While I played with my tablet in the corner of our shared living room, she'd be sprawled on the designer couch, making endless calls about property listings and market trends, completely oblivious to my presence. "Victoria, honey, don't forget your open house materials," Mom would say, carefully arranging her premium marketing folders. Meanwhile, I'd be sitting at the kitchen table, struggling with my math homework, but help rarely came. Instead, they developed a routine that defined my entire childhood. Every morning, they'd drop me off at my grandparents' modest but welcoming ranch house. "You wanted her," my father Kenneth would say to my grandfather, car keys dangling from his fingers as he checked his smartwatch, already running late for his consulting job. "She's all yours." My grandparents' house became my real home. They picked me up from school in their reliable old Volvo, helped me with my homework at their well-worn kitchen table, took me to the neighborhood park with its creaking swings, and made sure I was fed and cared for. Only late at night would my parents come to collect me, usually looking exhausted and slightly annoyed at having to make the trip. "Audrey," my grandmother would say, hugging me goodbye each night, her lavender perfume wrapping around me like a comfort blanket, "you're the best thing that ever happened to us." And in those moments, wrapped in her warm embrace, I could almost forget that I wasn't wanted elsewhere. This pattern continued day after day, year after year. While Victoria prepared for her ambitious career in real estate, I learned to navigate life as an afterthought in my own home. But my grandparents' love was constant, unwavering, and it was in their cozy ranch house that I learned what it meant to be truly valued. One day, my grandfather would tell me as we worked through my science homework at their kitchen table, the afternoon sun casting warm shadows through the lace curtains my grandmother had hung decades ago, "You'll understand that sometimes the best things in life aren't planned." He'd wink at me over his reading glasses, and for a moment, the weight of being unwanted would lift from my small shoulders. With Victoria focused on her struggling real estate career, I thought things might change at home. Maybe my parents would finally see me, the daughter who remained. I couldn't have been more wrong. "Audrey," my mother's voice would reach me through the house's smart speaker system before I could even set down my backpack after school, "the house needs cleaning. Start with the bathrooms." What had once been Victoria's chores now became mine, along with a host of new responsibilities. The washing machine became my constant companion, and I learned all its cycles and settings by heart, the mechanical hum a soundtrack to my teenage years. The housework seemed endless, a never-ending cycle of duties that left me exhausted. "You live here, you need to contribute," my father would say whenever I showed the slightest hesitation, his eyes never leaving his iPad screen. "Your sister always did her part when she lived here." By the time I was 14, I had graduated from cleaning to cooking. It wasn't a gradual transition. One day my mother simply stopped preparing meals. "You're old enough now," she announced one morning over her virtual business meeting. "We expect dinner ready when we get home from work." That first night, I made spaghetti, following a recipe I found online. It was slightly overcooked, but edible. My parents ate in silence, then my father looked up from his phone. "Tomorrow, try something with chicken," he said, his tone making it clear this wasn't a suggestion but an order. My only escape was dreaming about college. Every night after finishing the dishes, I'd retreat to my room and immerse myself in university websites, my laptop screen illuminating my hopes for the future. I'd imagine myself walking across different campuses, far away from the endless chores and cold silences of home, my mind filled with possibilities in the medical technology field that fascinated me. Then, when I was 16, Victoria came home with news that changed everything. She burst through the front door one Sunday afternoon, dragging a tall, well-dressed man behind her. "Mom, Dad," she squealed, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floors, "this is Nathan. We're engaged." You'd think someone had just announced they'd won the lottery. My parents literally jumped from their ergonomic office chairs, my mother crying tears of joy while clutching her iPad. My father was already pulling out his phone to call relatives. "We'll pay for everything," my mother declared, hugging Victoria. "Our first daughter's wedding has to be perfect." The wedding preparations consumed our house for months. Every conversation revolved around flowers, venues, and guest lists. Money seemed to flow like water: designer dresses, premium vendors, top-tier everything. My grandparents attended the wedding but seemed uncomfortable with the extravagance. I caught my grandmother frowning at the ice sculpture that probably cost more than a semester of college tuition. Grandfather just shook his head at the champagne fountain, but they kept their thoughts to themselves, though I could read the concern in their eyes. 2 years later, I sat at our dinner table, 3 college acceptance letters spread before me. After years of playing household manager while maintaining straight A's, I'd been accepted to all my top choices, including their prestigious biomedical engineering programs. My heart raced as I told my parents the good news, hope rising in my chest despite years of experience that should have taught me better. "That's nice," my mother said, not looking up from her social media feed, "but we can't pay for it. We spent all our savings on your sister's wedding, even took out a loan for it. There's nothing left for college." "But you paid for Victoria's college," I stammered, my fingers trembling on the acceptance letters. "That was different," my mother replied, finally looking up. "We saw potential in her." The silence at the dinner table was deafening. After my mother's words about potential, I sat there, the acceptance letters suddenly feeling heavy in my hands, as my parents continued scrolling through their phones as if they hadn't just shattered my dreams. "You should get a job," my father said between checking his email notifications. "Save up some money, take out student loans. That's what responsible adults do." I left the table without being excused, something I'd never dared to do before. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone and called my grandmother. Within minutes, I was walking through their familiar front door, tears streaming down my face. The smell of my grandmother's lavender hand cream and my grandfather's old leather armchair wrapped around me like a comforting embrace. "Oh, sweetheart," my grandmother pulled me into a hug while I told them everything between sobs, my words tumbling out between gasps. My grandfather's face grew stern as he listened, but there was a glimmer in his eyes that I couldn't quite read. When I finished, they exchanged a knowing look, the kind I'd seen them share countless times over years of family dinners and holiday gatherings. "Audrey," my grandfather said, taking my hand in his weathered one, "we've been expecting something like this." "What do you mean?" I asked, wiping my eyes with the tissue my grandmother had pressed into my hand. "We've watched how they've treated you all these years," my grandmother explained, her voice gentle but firm. "How they spent money on Victoria's education, her extravagant wedding. We knew they might do this to you." My grandfather stood up, his joints creaking slightly as he made his way to his study. When he returned, he was holding a leather folder that looked well-worn but carefully maintained. "We've been saving for your education since the day you were born," he said, opening the folder to reveal bank statements and investment documents. You can choose any of those 3 colleges. We've got you covered. Every penny. That night, I went home and packed my things. Not everything, just what I needed: my laptop, some clothes, my cherished medical technology textbooks, and the few photos I had of my grandparents and me. My parents were in the living room, both absorbed in their separate screens, when I told them I was moving in with my grandparents. "Whatever you think is best," my mother said, her eyes never leaving her tablet where she was reviewing Victoria's latest property listings. Was that relief I heard in her voice? The next few weeks were a blur of college preparations. I chose to study biomedical engineering with a focus on financial management, driven by a desire to understand both the human and business aspects of medical technology. Somehow, watching my parents' mismanagement of money while ignoring basic human connections had sparked an interest in doing things the right way. My grandparents helped me with every detail, from filling out financial aid forms to buying supplies for my dorm room. When I finally started classes that fall, it felt like stepping into a new world. The material was challenging but fascinating. Each lecture on medical devices and healthcare economics felt like a step away from my old life and toward something meaningful. My professors noticed my unique perspective, combining technical knowledge with financial insight, and soon I was staying after class to discuss healthcare innovation and market dynamics. For the first time in my life, someone besides my grandparents saw potential in me, real potential. My understanding of both medical technology and financial management seemed to open doors I never knew existed. My second year of college was in full swing when my grandmother called with some interesting news about Victoria. "Your sister's having trouble," she said during one of our weekly video calls, her face pixelated but her concern clear. "Her real estate career isn't taking off like she hoped, and Nathan can't seem to hold down a consulting job. They're constantly asking your parents for money." I wasn't surprised when she told me they were getting it. "Your mother emptied her retirement account last month to help them with rent," my grandmother sighed, adjusting her reading glasses. "They just can't say no to her." A year later, the situation got worse. Victoria and Nathan couldn't make rent anymore, even with our parents' constant financial support. They moved back into my old bedroom, the one I'd spent years keeping spotlessly clean. The irony wasn't lost on me as I saw Victoria's social media posts showing her cozy new home office, carefully angled to hide the peeling wallpaper I remembered. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My professors had helped me land internships at prestigious medical device companies, where I discovered I had a natural talent for understanding both the technical and financial aspects of healthcare innovation. Each challenging project, from analyzing cost-effectiveness of new medical technologies to developing financial strategies for patient access programs, made me more certain I'd chosen the right path. "You have an exceptional ability to balance business acumen with healthcare impact," my supervisor at MedTech Solutions told me during my performance review. "We'd love to have you join our executive training program after graduation." I kept my head down and focused on my studies, barely thinking about my family except during video calls with my grandparents. But when I visited them during my senior year, I knew something was wrong the moment I walked through their door. My grandmother's usual warm smile seemed forced, and my grandfather, usually quick with a joke about his latest gardening project, sat quietly in his familiar armchair. The house felt heavy with unspoken words. "What's wrong?" I asked over dinner, watching them push food around their plates. "And don't tell me it's nothing. I know you both too well." They exchanged a look I'd seen too many times before, the one that meant they were trying to protect me from something. Finally, my grandfather spoke, his voice unusually tired. "Your parents came to see us last week," he said, setting down his fork. "They wanted their inheritance early." What do you mean? I put down my spoon, my stomach churning. They're in trouble with the banks, my grandmother explained, her hands twisting her napkin. Multiple loans, credit card debt. They said they needed $200,000 to avoid bankruptcy. And you gave it to them? I couldn't keep the anger from my voice. My grandfather nodded, looking older than I'd ever seen him. We had to, Audrey. They're still our daughter and son-in-law, despite everything. It was most of your savings. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. After everything they've done? After how they keep enabling Victoria's irresponsible spending? After how they treated me? Sweetheart, my grandmother reached across the table to take my hand, her touch as comforting as ever. We know you're angry, but what's done is done. We'll be fine. But my anger kept building. My parents, who'd never had money for my education, who'd treated me like a live-in maid, had the audacity to demand money from the only people who'd ever truly cared for me, all because they couldn't say no to Victoria and couldn't manage their own finances. The injustice of it burned in my chest. My hard work paid off. After graduation, with glowing recommendations from my professors and impressive internship experiences in medical technology finance, I landed a position as a financial analyst at MedTech Solutions, one of the leading medical device companies in the country. The starting salary was more than I'd ever dreamed of making. I found a modest but modern apartment in a safe neighborhood, nothing fancy, but mine. Every morning, I'd wake up grateful that I didn't have to cook breakfast for anyone but myself. My career flourished as I threw myself into each new challenge, from developing pricing strategies for life-saving devices to creating financial assistance programs for patients in need. My unique combination of healthcare knowledge and financial expertise earned me rapid promotions and performance bonuses that my younger self couldn't have imagined. Within a few years, I had advanced to Director of Financial Operations and had enough saved for a down payment on my own house. The day I signed the mortgage papers, I couldn't help but think of my parents in Victoria, who'd never managed their money well enough to buy property despite their real estate ambitions. Not that they knew about my success, we hadn't spoken in years, though I occasionally saw Victoria's carefully curated social media posts about her thriving real estate business. Then came the call that changed everything. My grandfather had suffered a massive heart attack. By the time I rushed to the hospital, still wearing my business suit from an important board meeting, he was gone. My grandmother, who'd been by his side for over 50 years, seemed to lose her spark after that. Less than 2 months later, she followed him, leaving me truly alone for the first time in my life. I was arranging my grandmother's funeral at the upscale memorial home when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Audrey, do you want some help with the arrangements? I turned to find my mother standing there, looking older and more tired than I remembered, her designer clothes slightly worn at the edges. Part of me wanted to tell her to leave, but something in her expression, perhaps genuine grief, made me hesitate. Sure, I heard myself say, surprising us both. That would be nice. Over the next few days, as we planned the service, my parents began to open up. They were struggling, they admitted. Retirement hadn't been kind to them financially. We barely make ends meet, my father confessed one afternoon while we were selecting flowers, his once proud posture now slightly stooped. And with Victoria's twins. Twins? This was news to me, though I shouldn't have been surprised they hadn't told me. Yes, Lucas and Owen, my mother jumped in, pulling out her phone to show me photos. Such beautiful boys, 7 years old now, but they need so much. Victoria and Nathan still can't manage on their own, so we help where we can. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral as I looked at the smiling faces on her screen. Some things never changed. A week after we laid my grandmother to rest, we gathered in a wood-paneled office at Thompson and Associates for the reading of the will. I sat across from my parents, with Victoria and Nathan slouched in chairs beside them, both looking uncomfortable in their slightly outdated business attire. The room smelled of old leather and furniture polish, and the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. The attorney, Mr. Patterson, adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses and began reading in a measured voice. I expected the usual legal terminology, but what came next made everyone sit up straight. To our beloved granddaughter, Audrey, he read, his voice clear in the hushed room, we leave our house at 1542 Maple Street and the sum of $150,000. The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria's perfectly maintained facade cracked as her mouth fell open, and my mother gripped my father's arm so hard her manicured nails left marks on his sleeve. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat and continued, and a personal note from Mr. Henderson to his daughter, Diana. He looked at my mother over his glasses. The note reads, Diana, remember that we gave you $200,000 when you needed it most. This is our final decision, and we trust you will respect it as we respected your needs. My mother's face flushed red, then pale. My father stared at the floor, while Victoria and Nathan exchanged worried glances, their financial lifeline suddenly threatened. After the attorney finished and gathered his papers into his leather briefcase, my parents approached me in the parking lot. The polite demeanor they'd shown during the funeral arrangements was gone, replaced by barely concealed desperation. Audrey, honey, my mother began, her voice trembling beneath its practiced smoothness, you have to understand, we always thought we'd inherit the house. We were counting on it. We're struggling. The mortgage, Victoria's family's expenses, we could really use the house, my father added, running his hand through his thinning gray hair. I looked at them both, remembering all the years of neglect, the constant reminders that I wasn't wanted, the refusal to help with my education while they drained their accounts for Victoria. No, I said firmly, adjusting my designer blazer, a symbol of the success I'd achieved without their help. The house is mine. That's what Grandma and Grandpa wanted. They continued pleading, following me to my Tesla Model 3, but I stood firm. Victoria joined in too, her real estate agent persona slipping as she talked about how her boys needed a yard to play in, but I simply got in my car and drove away. A week later, my phone lit up with my mother's contact info. Her voice sounded different when I answered, humbled, perhaps. She was asking me to come over for dinner. Against my better judgment and my executive assistant's carefully managed schedule, I agreed. Pulling up to my childhood home was like stepping back in time, except everything looked shabbier than I remembered. The paint was peeling, the gutters sagged, and the once pristine lawn was patchy and overgrown. Inside, the house was crowded but clean. Lucas and Owen, Victoria's twins, ran circles around the living room while Nathan half-heartedly told them to settle down from behind his laptop. The boys were cute. They had Victoria's carefully maintained appearance and Nathan's unruly curly hair. Audrey, my mother smiled, pulling me into an awkward hug. We made your favorite, pot roast. That's not my favorite, I said automatically, my voice steady. That's Victoria's favorite. An uncomfortable silence followed, broken by my father clearing his throat. Well, why don't you tell us what your favorite food is? We'd love to know. And surprisingly, they seemed genuinely interested. Over dinner, they asked about my job at MedTech Solutions, my modern apartment, my hobbies. They actually listened when I talked about my work in healthcare finance and medical technology innovation, though I could tell most of it went over their heads. That dinner led to another, then another. Soon, I was joining them for holidays, bringing educational toys for the twins, even helping the boys with their homework sometimes. When they mentioned the house needed repairs, I found myself offering to help, my financial expertise making me acutely aware of their deteriorating situation. I paid for a new HVAC system, fixed the crumbling foundation, repainted the exterior. Each time I transferred funds, my parents would tear up with gratitude. "You're too good to us," my mother would say, hugging me while standing in their newly renovated kitchen. "We don't deserve this." "You're right," I would think but never say aloud, because despite everything, despite all the years of hurt and neglect, some small part of me still wanted to believe people could change. The years passed, and my career at MedTech Solutions continued to flourish. Each promotion brought new opportunities to improve patient care through innovative financial solutions, and my investment portfolio grew substantially. Meanwhile, my relationship with my parents seemed to strengthen. They were getting older, both were over 70 now, and I found myself wanting to do something meaningful for them. "I've been thinking," I said during one of our Sunday dinners, watching my father struggle to climb the stairs, "this house isn't really suitable for you anymore. I want to buy you a new house, something single-story, with wider doorways and better accessibility, but still with a nice garden. Something that would be comfortable for your retirement years." Their reaction surprised me, actual tears of joy, not the manufactured emotion I'd grown accustomed to seeing from them. We spent the next few weeks house hunting together and finally found the perfect place, a beautiful ranch-style home in a quiet neighborhood, designed for aging in place with all the modern amenities. After transferring a significant portion of my savings, my parents couldn't stop talking about how excited they were. "We need to have a proper housewarming party," my father declared, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. "Let us arrange everything. It's the least we can do." "That would be lovely," I agreed, planning to present them with the deed during the celebration. "Just let me know when." Weeks passed. Between managing major healthcare financing projects and developing new patient assistance programs, I was busy with work, but I kept expecting an invitation. When nothing came, I started asking about the date. "Oh, we're still planning," my mother would say during our video calls. "You know how these things take time. We want it to be perfect." "We'll let you know soon," my father would add, his face slightly pixelated on my screen. Something about their vague responses triggered a familiar feeling of unease. One evening, after another deflecting call from my mother, I found myself opening Instagram, where I wasn't connected with Victoria. I hadn't looked at her profile in years, having muted all family social media long ago. There it was, posted just hours ago with her signature real estate agent polish, so excited for Mom and Dad's amazing housewarming party this Saturday. "The house is absolutely gorgeous. Can't wait to celebrate with everyone. #new home, #family celebration, #luxury living." The post had dozens of comments from relatives and friends, all confirming their attendance. Her story showed decorations being set up, catering being arranged. This wasn't a last-minute gathering, this had been planned for weeks. My hand shaking slightly, I called my mother, years of executive presentations helping me keep my voice steady. "Hi, Mom," I maintained a casual tone. "Just checking in about the housewarming party. Have you set a date yet?" "Oh, honey, not yet," she replied smoothly, the lie flowing effortlessly. "Probably in a couple of weeks. We're still working out the details. We want everyone to be able to come." Everyone, except me, apparently. The irony of being excluded from a celebration of a house I had bought wasn't lost on me. That Saturday, I parked my Tesla a block away from the house I had purchased. Music and laughter drifted through the evening air. Through the large energy-efficient windows I'd specifically chosen for them, I could see dozens of people milling about, relatives I recognized, friends of my parents, Victoria's real estate network. The front door was unlocked, of course it was. They were expecting everyone except the person who actually owned the house. I slipped in quietly in my designer business suit, following the sound of my father's voice to the living room. And after all these years of hard work, we finally did it, he was saying to a group of attentive listeners, standing under the new LED recessed lighting I'd had installed. Bought our dream home. Don't forget about Victoria, my mother added proudly, gesturing with her wine glass. She helped so much with the down payment. Such a wonderful daughter, always taking care of her parents. Someone murmured sympathetically, and my mother nodded. You know, our younger daughter hasn't helped us at all, she said pointedly, adjusting her new smart home tablet. Probably too busy with her medical technology career to care about family. I stood in the doorway, heat rising to my face as I watched this performance. Victoria beamed beside them, her 7-year-old twins running between the guests in the space I'd carefully designed for aging accessibility. Here they were, celebrating in the house I bought with my hard-earned success in the very career they'd dismissed. Actually, I said loudly, making everyone jump, my voice carrying the authority I'd developed in countless boardroom presentations, I think you've got that backwards. The color drained from my parents' faces. Guests turned to stare at me, whispers rippling through the crowd like a wave. Audrey, my father recovered first, his smile tight. What a surprise! I'm sure it is, I replied, stepping into the room, my heels clicking against the premium flooring I'd selected, especially since you forgot to invite me to the housewarming party for the house I bought. Dead silence fell over the room. Nathan suddenly became very interested in his worn loafers, while Victoria's perfectly maintained real estate agent smile faltered. Well, my mother's voice had an edge to it, her wine glass trembling slightly, what's done is done. You bought it, yes, but it's ours now. You can't expect eternal gratitude. That's right, my father added, gaining confidence as he stood next to their new smart home control panel. And frankly, you're not welcome here. This is a family gathering, and Victoria and her family will be living here too, my mother announced, her voice rising. They've already sold their house. It's all arranged. I couldn't help but laugh, a cold, harsh sound that echoed off the newly painted walls. Reaching into my Prada briefcase, I pulled out a folder containing documents I'd prepared with the same meticulous attention I gave to my medical technology contracts. You seem to be confused about something, I said, opening the folder to reveal the deed and ownership papers. This house belongs to me. I never signed it over to you. I was planning to give it to you tonight, at what I thought would be a proper housewarming party. My mother's face went from pale to ashen. My father started to sputter, his hand gripping the marble countertop I'd specially ordered. Victoria's carefully crafted professional demeanor crumbled completely. And now I turned to address the stunned guests, using the same commanding tone I used in corporate presentations. Now, I'd like everyone to leave. This is my house, and the party's over. You can't do this, my mother's voice rose to a shriek, her perfect hostess facade shattering. We're your parents. No, I said quietly, my voice carrying the weight of years of executive decision-making. You're just the people who gave birth to me. My real parents, my grandparents, taught me that family means more than blood. They also taught me about financial responsibility, which is why I own this house, and you don't. They left in tears, my parents, Victoria, Nathan, the twins, and all their guests. I watched from the front porch as they drove away in their aging luxury cars, one by one, until the street was empty except for my Tesla parked around the corner. After a few weeks, I learned they'd used the money from selling their old house to rent a small apartment. Victoria, Nathan, and the twins moved in with them. They tried calling me, sending emails, reaching out through LinkedIn, but I blocked their numbers, their emails, their social media accounts. The house? I sold it a month later and donated the proceeds to a patient assistance program at MedTech Solutions, helping families afford life-saving medical devices. Someday I'll have my own children, and I promised myself they'll never have to earn my love or compete for my attention. Unlike my parents, I'll love my children equally and unconditionally, the way my grandparents loved me. The message from my father glowed on my phone screen with its usual commanding tone. Family meeting at the manor, 7 p.m. Non-negotiable. I stood before the imposing oak doors of my family's historic mansion, my hand hovering over the antique brass knocker. The carefully preserved Victorian architecture and my father's prized collection of vintage cars in the circular driveway represented everything the Reed family stood for: tradition, wealth, and the preservation of the past. Everything I'd apparently failed to honor. I am Autumn, the black sheep of the Reed family. While my siblings collected prestigious degrees and accolades like vintage wines, I chose a different path, one that involved breathing new life into forgotten treasures with my own hands, building something uniquely mine. My father's antique empire dealt in perfection. I saw beauty in the broken. The door swung open before I could knock. "You're late," my mother said, her pearls gleaming in the evening light, lips pressed into a disapproving line. "Everyone's waiting." I glanced at my watch, 6:58 p.m. In the Reed family, anything less than 15 minutes early was considered an insult. The study fell silent as I entered. Victoria sat primly on the edge of a Louis XIV chair, her M&A lawyer's briefcase by her feet. Penelope, fresh from her private clinic, wore her designer surgical scrubs like armor. Blake, my younger brother, didn't even look up from his tablet, probably checking his tech company's latest stock prices. My father stood by the floor-to-ceiling display cases housing his most precious antiques, hands clasped behind his back like a museum curator preparing to dismiss a forgery. "Sit down, Autumn," he commanded, gesturing to the lone Victorian chair facing everyone else. The setup reminded me of an auction house, with me as the item up for assessment. "What's this about?" I asked, remaining standing, my eyes drawn to the half-restored Tiffany lamp in the corner, one I'd begged to repair months ago. Victoria reached into her leather briefcase and pulled out a document, the paper so crisp it practically crackled in the silence. "We've been discussing the family's legacy," she said in her boardroom voice, "and we've come to a necessary decision. For the preservation of the Reed name," my mother added, perching beside Penelope on the antique settee, her fingers nervously adjusting her heritage diamond necklace. The document made its way into my hands, the legal jargon dense but certain phrases cutting through like sharp edges of broken glass: formal dissolution of familial ties, relinquishment of inheritance rights, termination of family trust association. "You're disowning me?" The words echoed against the wood-paneled walls, bouncing off display cases filled with pristine antiques my father had collected over decades. "It's not personal." Blake finally looked up from his tablet, his tech executive polish unable to hide his discomfort. "It's about preserving value." "Value?" I laughed, the sound harsh against the refined atmosphere. "I'm your daughter, your sister. How is this not personal?" "Your choices reflect poorly on the Reed legacy," my father said, gesturing to the surrounding antiquities. "Your little restoration hobby, my business," I corrected, my voice steady despite the trembling in my chest. The irony wasn't lost on me. Surrounded by these preserved pieces of history, they were about to break apart their own family. "Fixing broken chairs in your warehouse isn't a business," Penelope scoffed, her surgeon's hands elegant even in dismissal. "It's embarrassing. Do you know what my colleagues at the clinic say when they ask what my sister does?" "We've given you every opportunity," my mother continued, her voice echoing off the crystal displays. "The finest schools, connections to the most prestigious auction houses, access to the best collections. and you've thrown it all away to play with damaged goods. I looked down at the document again, my hand steady despite the earthquake in my chest. Years of subtle jabs about my peculiar interest in restoration, disappointed sighs when I'd choose a broken antique over a pristine one, and backhanded compliments about my creative hobby had prepared me for this moment. They'd never understood that sometimes the most valuable things were the ones that needed fixing. Where do I sign? My mother blinked, her carefully preserved facade cracking slightly. Autumn, if you'd just reconsider your approach to preservation, where do I sign? Victoria pointed to the bottom of the page with her Mont Blanc pen. Initial here and sign here. The family attorney is waiting in the library. 10 minutes later, it was done. I was no longer officially part of the Reed family. The weight of their expectations, their obsession with perfection, their dismissal of anything broken or flawed, all of it lifted from my shoulders. I hope you understand, my father said as I headed for the door, his reflection multiplied in the glass cases of his precious collection. This is for the preservation of our legacy. I turned back one last time, taking in their faces, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. You know what's ironic? You're so worried about preserving the family name, about maintaining perfect appearances, but you have no idea what I've actually built. You never bothered to look past the surface. Autumn, my mother started. No, I cut her off, my hand on the doorknob. You've made your choice. Now you get to live with it. Just like all these perfect pieces you've collected, beautiful on the surface, but ultimately empty inside. The door closed behind me with a soft click, too gentle for the magnitude of what had just happened. My phone buzzed, a notification from my restoration studio's business account. Another commission had come in, this time from a prestigious museum, pushing my monthly revenue well into six figures again. I smiled as I walked to my restored vintage Mustang, thinking about the stack of antiques waiting for my touch, the upcoming collaboration with the Smithsonian, and the feature article being written about my innovative approach to historical preservation. They wanted to cut me off? Fine. They'd learn soon enough what they'd thrown away. Success, after all, is the sweetest form of restoration. As I drove away from the mansion I'd grown up in, I didn't feel sadness or anger. Instead, I felt something else entirely: freedom. The freedom to see beauty in imperfection, to believe that everything broken deserved a chance at renewal. Family, I realized, wasn't about preserving appearances, it was about who sees the value in what others discard. And I had people in my life who did exactly that. They just weren't the ones I was leaving behind. You did what? Maya nearly dropped her artisanal coffee across my workbench. 3 days had passed since the disownment, and I'd finally gathered the courage to tell my best friend. Signed the papers without arguing, I said, carefully applying gold leaf to a crack in a Victorian music box, following the Japanese kintsugi principle of highlighting repairs rather than hiding them. You should have seen their faces. They expected tears, begging, maybe a dramatic breakdown worthy of their family theatrics. But your inheritance, Autumn. The Reed family collection, the connections to every major auction house in the country, all of it just gone? I set down my restoration tools and looked at her directly. What inheritance? A share in a business that only values perfection? The privilege of being told my restoration work ruins antiques at every family dinner? Marcus burst through the door of my workshop, his laptop clutched to his chest like a priceless artifact. My marketing director and business partner always had perfect timing. Autumn, you need to see this. He spun his laptop around. Heritage and Restoration Monthly just featured us. They're calling you the revolutionary restorer, bringing new life to America's forgotten treasures. Maya leaned in to scan the screen. Holy! Autumn, These commission rates, is that really how much museums are paying you? That's just last month, Marcus grinned. Wait until they see our new conservation technique. The Sustainable Restoration Initiative alone is going to, my phone buzzed, another commission request, then another, and another. What's happening? I asked, setting down the delicate gold leaf brush. Marcus refreshed his browser. The article just went live. We're trending in the art world. The historical preservation community is going crazy over your innovative restoration methods. I walked to the wall of display cases showing my latest restorations. Antique furniture brought back to life, vintage timepieces ticking once again, damaged art pieces transformed into stunning examples of preservation meets innovation. Each piece told a story of resurrection, of beauty found in brokenness. We need to scale up, Marcus said, already typing furiously. I'm getting inquiries from 3 major museums. They want exclusive restoration contracts. Maya squeezed my shoulder. And your family has no idea. They never bothered to look, I said, picking up a piece I'd finished that morning, a Victorian music box restored with gold-filled cracks, celebrating rather than hiding its history of damage. Too busy protecting their perfect collection to notice their daughter built a 6-figure restoration business from scratch. 7 figures, actually, Marcus corrected, still typing. After these museum contracts go through. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Autumn Reed? A woman's crisp voice asked. This is Catherine Williams from Antiques and Heritage Quarterly. We're doing a feature on innovators revolutionizing historical preservation. Your name keeps coming up in conservation circles. I caught Marcus's eye. He gave me a thumbs up. I'd love to hear more, I said, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. We're particularly interested in your philosophy of highlighting rather than hiding repairs, your innovative conservation techniques, and your rapid rise in the field. Would you be open to an interview? Cover story potential? I thought about my father's face when he saw me on the cover of the magazine he'd subscribed to for 30 years. Absolutely. When were you thinking? After setting up the interview, I turned to find both Maya and Marcus staring at me. What? Antiques and Heritage Quarterly? Marcus whispered. Do you know how huge this is? Their features literally define careers in the preservation world. Maya hugged me tight. This is it, Autumn. This is your moment to show them what true preservation means. I pulled away and picked up my tools again. No. This is my moment to show that sometimes the most valuable restorations aren't about maintaining perfection, they're about honoring the journey of broken things. I gestured to my workbench, where dozens of damaged pieces waited for my touch. I've got restorations to complete. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I hired 3 apprentices to help with the growing workload. Marcus expanded our online presence and negotiated deals with museums. Maya helped me prepare for the magazine interview, asking questions about my restoration philosophy while I worked on increasingly complex pieces. Tell me again about your inspiration, Maya said one evening, playing reporter while I delicately reconstructed a damaged Faberge egg. I held up the piece, its newly restored surface catching the light. I see stories in broken things, in the pieces others discard. Every crack, every imperfection tells a history. It's not about erasing that history, but about honoring it while giving it new life. That's it, she said softly. That's what makes your work special. You're not just restoring objects, you're preserving their stories of survival. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. The Metropolitan Museum wants to meet tomorrow. Their entire Victorian collection. Be ready. I looked around my workshop, once an abandoned warehouse, now a thriving restoration studio. Damaged treasures lined the walls, half-restored pieces waited on workbenches, the air rich with the scent of wood polish and possibility. You know what the best part is? I said to Maya, who was admiring the Fabergé's restored surface. I'm doing exactly what I've always wanted to do. What they called a hobby is now revolutionizing how we think about preservation. Speaking of them, Maya hesitated. Have you heard anything? Not a word. I picked up my tools again. But they will soon enough. Everyone will. The restored Fabergé caught the setting sun, its repaired cracks now filled with gold, creating an entirely new pattern of beauty. Like my life, I thought, what was broken becoming something unexpectedly magnificent. Time to get back to work, I said, reaching for another piece waiting to be restored. These treasures won't resurrect themselves. There she is. Catherine from Antiques and Heritage Quarterly rushed toward me, her heels clicking against my studio's restored hardwood floors. Our cover star. She thrust the magazine into my hands. My face stared back at me, surrounded by my most intricate restorations. The headline read, "The Art of Resurrection: How Autumn Reed is Revolutionizing Historical Preservation." The response has been extraordinary. Catherine gushed. The conservation community is buzzing. 3 major networks want features on your restoration techniques. Marcus burst in, waving his tablet. Autumn, the website crashed from traffic. We've got waitlists forming for every restoration service. And that Metropolitan Museum contract, they doubled their initial offer. I traced my finger over the magazine cover, still struggling to believe it was real. The article detailed everything: my restoration philosophy, conservation techniques, revenue growth, everything except my family's rejection of my work. The Today Show called, Catherine continued. They want to feature your restoration of the Vanderbilt clock. Prime morning slot. My phone lit up with a text from Victoria, my first contact with family in 2 months. Family business requires urgent discussion. Critical matters pending. I showed the message to Maya, who'd been quietly cataloging restoration requests. Funny how you're suddenly family again when they need something, she muttered. Another text arrived, this time from Penelope, saw the magazine. Your restoration work, why didn't you tell us? Call me ASAP. Ignore them, Marcus said, glancing at my phone. We've got bigger things to focus on. The British Museum wants to commission 3 full collection restorations, 6 figures each. Catherine cleared her throat. Speaking of figures, Forbes is interested in featuring you in their 30 under 30 list for innovation in arts and culture. The notifications kept coming. Blake, Mom's upset about the press coverage. You should call. Then my father, we need to discuss your recent publicity and its impact on the family business. Your restoration philosophy is inspiring people, Catherine said, oblivious to my family drama. Young conservator refuses traditional methods, proves everyone wrong through innovation. It's resonating, especially your approach to highlighting rather than hiding imperfections. Marcus added, the video of you restoring that damaged Chippendale chair went viral. People love seeing the transformation process, how you honor the piece's history while giving it new life. My phone buzzed again, my mother this time, family dinner Sunday, 7 p.m. Your father's study. We have much to discuss about the future of Reed Antiques. Maya read the message over my shoulder. You're not going, right? I picked up a piece of fractured Victorian porcelain, turning it over in my hands. Remember what you said about my work, Maya? About preserving stories of survival? Autumn, no. They don't deserve, I'm going. I cut her off, but not for the reasons they think. The rest of the week was a whirlwind. The Today Show interview went viral. Restoration commissions flooded in faster than we could handle them. I hired 5 more apprentices and leased additional studio space. Look at these numbers, Marcus said during our Friday meeting. We've exceeded our annual projection in just 2 months. The museum conservation community can't get enough of your work. The waiting list for private collection restorations is 6 months long. Even with our premium restoration rates, one of my apprentices added. I nodded, only half listening. Sunday's dinner loomed in my mind. Then my phone lit up with an email that changed everything. Holy! I whispered. Marcus looked up. What? The Louvre, they want me to lead the restoration of their 18th century furniture collection. The studio erupted in cheers. Maya hugged me tight. See? This is what happens when you believe in the beauty of imperfection. When do they want to meet? Marcus asked, already pulling up his calendar. Next week. In Paris. I laughed. They're sending their private jet. Sunday arrived too quickly. As I pulled up to the family mansion, I noticed all their cars were there: Victoria's sleek Mercedes, Penelope's BMW, Blake's Tesla. The whole Reed family, punctual as ever. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Catherine. Breaking news, your Antiques and Heritage feature just won Historical Preservation Story of the Year. Congratulations. I smiled, tucking the phone away. Perfect timing. The door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there, looking exactly as she had the night they disowned me, except now her eyes held something new: desperation. Autumn, darling. She stepped forward for a hug, her vintage Cartier bracelet catching the evening light. I didn't return it. We've missed you. Behind her, I could see the rest of the family in my father's study, Victoria with her briefcase again, Penelope pretending to examine a display case, Blake actually looking at me this time, my father still by his beloved antique collection, but his stance less commanding than before. Have you? I asked, stepping past her into the study, my boots clicking against the hardwood floors my father had imported from a French chateau, or did you miss what I represent now? The room fell silent. On the mahogany desk, I spotted copies of Antiques and Heritage Quarterly. My face stared up at all of us, surrounded by pieces I'd brought back from the brink of destruction, a testament to everything they'd dismissed. We should talk, my father said, his voice lacking its usual authoritative tone. About the future, about the Reed legacy. I sat in the same queen and chair they'd put me in months ago when they decided I wasn't good enough to be part of their perfectly preserved world. Yes, I agreed, smoothing my vintage Chanel dress, a damaged piece I'd restored myself. Let's talk about legacies. The silence in the study was thick enough to cut. My mother busied herself adjusting priceless figurines nobody asked her to touch, while my father kept glancing at his wall of certificates from prestigious auction houses. Your restoration work is remarkable, Victoria finally said, tapping the magazine cover. The profit margins mentioned in the article are quite impressive. Remarkable? I raised an eyebrow. I thought it was just a hobby, playing with broken things. Wasn't that what you called it? Penelope shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her fingers tracing the edge of a nearby display case. We may have been hasty in our assessment of your methods. Hasty? I took in the room, my eyes lingering on each perfectly preserved piece. You disowned me, had it notarized, because I dared to see beauty in imperfection. About that, my father stepped forward, his reflection multiplied in the glass cases surrounding us. We've been discussing, as a family, and we believe it's time to rectify that unfortunate situation. Unfortunate situation? I repeated, my eyes drawn to a flawless Empire period clock that had never missed a second. Is that what we're calling it now? Victoria reached for her briefcase, ever the lawyer. I've drawn up papers to nullify the previous agreement. We can have it done today. The timing seems convenient, I said, watching their faces, right after the magazine cover, the TV appearances, the Louvre announcement. The Louvre? Blake perked up, his tech executive polish cracking. They're working with you? They're flying me to Paris next week, I said casually, enjoying their shocked expressions. Private jet. Something about revolutionizing their restoration department. My mother dropped a priceless porcelain figurine. It shattered on the hardwood floor, but nobody moved to clean it up. The sound of breaking porcelain hung in the air like an accusation. Autumn, my father's voice took on the tone he used for major auction acquisitions. There's something else we need to discuss. The antique business is struggling. I finished for him. I know. The market's shifting. Younger collectors want pieces with character, with visible history. They're not interested in perfectly preserved emptiness anymore. Your restoration-free approach is becoming obsolete. The color drained from his face. How did you? I have good advisors now. They keep me informed about market transformations and emerging opportunities. Then you understand, Victoria jumped in, her legal training showing. The family business needs to evolve. Your innovative restoration approach, your media presence, your connection with younger collectors, it could be exactly what Reed Antiques needs. I laughed, the sound echoing off the display cases. So that's what this is about. You don't want me back, you want my success to save your outdated business model. That's not fair. Penelope protested. We're family. Are we? I stood up, walking to the wall where family portraits hung chronologically, none of them including me, because 3 months ago, in this very room, you made it very clear that I wasn't preserved enough to be a Reed. People make mistakes, my mother said softly, still staring at the broken figurine at her feet. We're trying to make it right. No, I turned to face them. You're trying to save yourselves. The business is facing bankruptcy, isn't it, Dad? And Victoria, that partnership at the auction house? It fell through when collectors started demanding restoration services. Penelope's private practice is struggling, and Blake's tech investments tanked. They stared at me, shocked at how much I knew. Like I said, good advisors. We could help each other, my father insisted. Pool our resources. The Reed name still means something in this industry. My name means something, I corrected him. My work means something. And I did that without your perfectionist legacy. Actually, I did it by embracing everything you taught me to reject. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Louvre doubled their offer. Says your restoration philosophy is exactly what they need. I have a meeting, I said, gathering my things, with people who saw value in my work before the magazine covers and TV spots. Autumn, please. My mother grabbed my arm, her vintage tennis bracelet catching the light. We're sorry. We were wrong. What more can we say? I gently removed her hand. You know what's fascinating about my work? I take pieces that people have given up on, things considered beyond repair, and I show the world their inherent value. But some things, I glanced around at the perfectly preserved room, once broken, need to stay broken. Some relationships, once shattered, are more honest in their broken state. You're really going to hold on to this? Blake asked, after we've apologized. Apologized? I walked to the door, passing the broken figurine, a perfect metaphor for our family. All I've heard are business propositions and convenient excuses. Not one of you has actually said you're proud of what I've built or admitted you were wrong about my vision. You just want what I have now. That's not true. Victoria started. Save it, I cut her off. Keep your legal papers and your business proposals. I'm doing fine honoring imperfection on my own. At the door, I turned back one last time. You know what the worst part is? If you'd supported me from the beginning, I would have helped you without hesitation. Family meant everything to me. But you taught me something valuable when you disowned me. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. And mine understands that perfection isn't the same as value. I walked out, leaving them with their broken figurine and shattered pride. My phone buzzed again. Maya this time. How'd it go? Exactly as expected, I texted back. They want what I have, not who I am. Their loss, she replied. Studios packed with new arrivals from that estate sale. Want to come help? Pizza's on me. I smiled, starting my car. Family dinners are overrated anyway. Especially when they're served with a side of hypocrisy. The sun was setting as I drove away, casting long shadows behind me. Like the pieces I worked with, I'd been discarded but found my own way to shine. Some might call it poetic justice, I called it restoration of the self. The text came 3 days later, dinner tonight, please. Dad. I showed it to Marcus during our morning restoration assessment. Think he'll actually understand the value of imperfection in person? Don't go, he said, not looking up from his laptop. We've got the Louvre meeting tomorrow, and the British Museum contracts need reviewing. I'm going. I picked up a damaged Art Nouveau vase, considering its potential. But this time, I choose the place. I texted back, Lantiquaire, 8 p.m. I'll make reservations. The response was immediate, that's rather expensive. I'm buying, I replied. Bring Mom. Let me show you what actual value looks like. Lantiquaire was the kind of restaurant my parents used to boast about frequenting before their business started struggling. Each table was decorated with authentically restored antique centerpieces, most of them my work. I arrived early, wearing a vintage Dior dress I'd restored from near destruction to museum quality. They walked in right on time, looking uncomfortable among the beautifully imperfect surroundings. The maitre d' recognized me immediately. Miss Reed, your usual table is ready. Chef Michel sends his regards and asks if you'd like the special tasting menu he's prepared in honor of your Louvre commission. My parents' eyes widened. I smiled. That would be lovely, Thomas. Thank you. Once seated, my father cleared his throat. Your usual table? I invest in businesses that understand true value, I said, sipping my water. This place included. Chef Michel does amazing things with traditional recipes that others would discard as outdated. My mother fidgeted with her napkin. Autumn, about Sunday, let's order first. I cut her off as the sommelier approached. The 82 Bordeaux, please. The whole bottle. My father's face paled. I knew he recognized the four-figure wine when he used to collect before his business started failing. Now, I said, after our glasses were filled, what's so urgent? They exchanged glances before my father spoke. The bank called in our loans. All of them. We have 30 days to either modernize the business or sell Reed Antiques entirely. And, my mother jumped in, we've explored every option. Nobody's lending in this market, not to traditional antique dealers, especially not to those without restoration services. Which is where I come in, I added, watching the wine swirl in my glass like the twists of fate that had brought us here. The first course arrived, each dish served on restored antique plates that I recognized I'd done the work myself. My parents barely touched their food, the irony of eating from restored pieces seemingly lost on them. We need help, my father said finally, the words seeming to physically pain him. Your help. Financial help, I clarified, not family reconciliation. Both, my mother insisted, her hand trembling as she reached for her wine glass. We were wrong, Autumn, so wrong. Seeing what you've built, your vision for preservation, my vision? I set down my fork. I'm exactly who I was 3 months ago. The only difference is now I have validation and influence in the very industry you claimed I was destroying. The second course arrived on a spectacular restored Art Nouveau platter. My father still hadn't touched his first course. We're not just asking for money, he said. We want to merge the businesses. Your restoration philosophy, your innovative approach, it could revolutionize Reed Antiques. Modern preservation techniques, sustainable restoration practices, and save the family legacy. I finished his thought. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Legacy? My mother reached for my hand across the antique table. I let her take it, watching her face. We're losing everything, Autumn. The shop, the collection, our reputation. Like I lost my family, I withdrew my hand. The main course arrived, perfectly presented on restored Victorian silverware. The chef stopped by personally to check on us. Everything is exquisite, Michel, I assured him. The restoration work on these serving pieces sets off your presentation beautifully. After he left, my father leaned forward. How much? Excuse me? To save Reed Antiques, how much do you want? I laughed, the sound drawing glances from nearby tables. You still don't get it. This isn't about money. It never was. It's about understanding that value isn't measured by perfection. Then what do you want? He demanded, frustration breaking through his carefully maintained facade. I wanted you to love me for who I am, I said quietly. I wanted you to be proud of me before the magazine covers and TV spots. I wanted a family who saw value in my vision without a profit margin attached to it. The dessert arrived, an artistic creation served on a restored Belle Epoque dessert service, its repaired cracks highlighted in gold. My mother started crying silently. We can change, she whispered. We can learn to see things differently. I signaled for the check. Maybe you can. But here's the thing, I don't need you to anymore. I don't need your approval, your connections, or your name. I built something beautiful by believing in exactly what you rejected. The bill came. I handed over my black card without looking at the total. So that's it? My father asked. You'll let Reed Antiques die? Let us lose everything we've preserved? I stood up, smoothing my restored vintage dress. You taught me an important lesson when you disowned me. In business, as in restoration, you have to know which pieces are worth saving. It's not personal. Autumn, please, my mother started. I have an early flight to Paris tomorrow, I cut her off. The Louvre's sending a car at 6. Their entire 18th century collection awaits. Enjoy the rest of your dinner. It's already paid for. I walked out of l'Antiquaire, leaving them with their untouched food and the weight of their choices. My phone buzzed. Maya, asking how it went. They finally learned about value, I texted back. Too bad they still don't understand worth. The night air was cool on my face as I headed home. Tomorrow, I'd be discussing restoration philosophy with the world's premier museum. Tonight, I'd left my parents with a bill they never saw coming, the true cost of valuing perfection over authenticity. They offered what? Maya nearly fell off her chair in my Paris hotel suite. Full acquisition of Reed Antiques? I repeated, still staring at the contract my father's lawyers had emailed, offering to sell me the entire family business. They want me to preserve the Reed legacy, their words, not mine. Holy. Marcus whispered, pacing the room. That's not including the Louvre contract or the British Museum Commission. My phone buzzed. Victoria again, Dad's meeting with bankruptcy lawyers tomorrow. Please consider our offer. I ignored it, focusing on the Paris skyline outside my window. The Louvre's private car would arrive in an hour for the final contract signing. Your family's blowing up my phone too, Maya said. Your sister Penelope came by the studio yesterday. What did she want? To explain their side. Said they're about to lose the family collection. Blake's moving back in with them since his tech investments failed. Another text from my mother, please come home. We need to discuss the future of Reed Antiques. As a family. Marcus stopped pacing. You know what's ironic? If they hadn't disowned you, your restoration business wouldn't have grown this fast. You channeled all that rejection into revolutionizing the entire field. Speaking of work, Maya picked up a piece from my latest collection, a phoenix rising from shattered crystal and broken porcelain. This is different. More personal. It's for the Louvre installation, I said. I'm calling it Family Legacy. My phone rang. Dad. I let it go to voicemail. You could save them, Marcus said quietly. Acquiring Reed Antiques would give you everything they never wanted you to have. I could, I agreed, but should I? Maya stood up, walking to the phoenix sculpture. Remember what you told me when you started this? About seeing worth in damaged things? Maybe this isn't so different. She turned the piece, watching light play through the restored crystal. Sometimes the most meaningful restorations aren't about erasing damage, but about incorporating it into something new. My phone buzzed again, a text from Blake. They're selling Dad's first acquisition tomorrow, the Georgian writing desk. They made their choice, I said, but my voice wavered. That writing desk was where I'd first learned to appreciate antiques, sitting on my father's lap as he explained its history. Marcus sat down, pulling up something on his laptop. Look at this. I've been analyzing the numbers. You could acquire Reed Antiques for a fraction of its former value right now. Transform it into a modern restoration house. Your innovative techniques plus their traditional client base, it could work. Maya added, but only if you want to. Some things are worth restoring, others. A knock at the door interrupted us. A courier with a thick envelope. Inside was a letter from my father, handwritten on his personal stationery paper from that Georgian desk. Autumn, I've written this letter 100 times in my head. Nothing sounds right. Nothing can excuse what we did. You were always the visionary among us, seeing beauty where we saw only flaws. We were too blind, too obsessed with perfection to see it. I'm not asking for money or a business merger. I'm asking for a chance to be the father I should have been, to understand the value you've always seen. We're losing everything, but that's not why I'm writing. We lost what mattered most the day we signed those papers. We lost you. I'm proud of you, not because of your success, but because you never lost your vision, even when we tried to break it. Love, Dad. The paper trembled in my hands. Autumn, Maya asked softly. He said he's proud of me, I whispered, for the first time in my life. Marcus closed his laptop. The Louvre contract doesn't need to be signed today. We could postpone. My phone buzzed one final time, a text from Penelope, Mom's in the hospital. Anxiety attack. She keeps asking for you, talking about that writing desk where you used to sit together. I looked at the phoenix sculpture, its broken pieces forming something new, something stronger than its original form. Call the car, I said. We're making a stop before the Louvre. Where? Maya asked, though her smile suggested she already knew. The bank. I need to make some arrangements. And then? Marcus was already dialing. I picked up the phoenix, carefully wrapping it. Then we're going to restore a family. But on my terms. What are you thinking? Maya asked. A new vision for Reed Antiques. Modern restoration techniques, apprenticeship programs, a complete reinvention of how we value historical pieces. We'll teach people that every crack tells a story worth preserving. With you in charge? Marcus added. With me as creative director, I agreed. Dad can stay on as chairman emeritus, he knows the history, I know the future. They want to be family again? Fine. But we do it my way. No more hiding imperfections, no more shame about different approaches. No more perfect facades hiding empty histories. The prodigal daughter returns, Maya smiled, but this time, she's rewriting the rules of preservation. I looked at my father's letter again. Sometimes the pieces we break can be restored into something stronger. But first, everyone has to acknowledge the value of the breaks. The car arrived as I finished packing the Phoenix. It seemed fitting that this piece about transformation would now witness one. Ready? Maya asked. I nodded, tucking the letter into my vintage clutch. Time to show them what true restoration means and what it costs. We headed down to the waiting car, the Phoenix carefully cradled in my arms. Its restored crystal caught the morning light, sending fragments of color dancing across the hotel walls, broken pieces coming together to create something unexpected, something even more valuable than the original, just as it should be. The newly renovated Reed and Daughter Restoration House gleamed under the autumn sunlight. My latest installation, a massive chandelier made from restored period pieces, dominated the entrance. Each piece told its own story of damage and renewal, highlighted rather than hidden. I watched from my office, formerly my father's study, as he guided a young collector through our newest exhibition, The Beauty of Imperfection. His voice carried the same passion it always had, but now he spoke of history preserved through restoration, not despite it. Maya appeared at my door. The Smithsonian curator is here for the demonstration. Tell them I'll be right there, I smiled, watching my mother arrange a display of recently restored pieces, each imperfection now a badge of honor rather than a mark of shame. Sometimes, I thought, the most valuable restorations aren't about returning something to its original state, but about creating something better from the broken pieces. My family had learned that lesson. And so had I. The Phoenix sculpture sat on my desk, a constant reminder that sometimes we have to break something completely to build it back stronger. Its golden repairs caught the light, throwing patterns across the walls of what was once my father's sanctuary of perfection, now transformed into a celebration of beautiful imperfection. Just like us. The numbers glowed accusingly on my dual monitors, burning my tired eyes in the dim light of my office. $300,000. I blinked, but the figure remained unchanged on my data visualization dashboard. $300,000 had vanished from the Foundation's accounts over the past year, and my advanced analytics software had just confirmed my worst suspicions. The digital trail led straight to my mother. I'm Evelyn, and I've built my career on being the methodical one, the analytical one, the one who follows data and logic, while my stepsister Mackenzie dazzled at galas and charity events. While she perfected her public speaking, I earned my MBA and mastered predictive analytics. I didn't mind the contrast. I loved working with data, finding patterns others missed. But tonight, those patterns had revealed something I wished I'd never seen. Still burning the midnight oil? Nathan's voice made me jump. He stood in my office doorway, his biodegradable coffee cup steaming in the LED light. It's almost midnight, Evelyn. Whatever algorithm you're running can wait until morning. I shook my head, my fingers trembling as I turned one of my monitors toward him. Look at this visualization. The foundation's quarterly reports don't match the bank statements. Someone's been systematically siphoning money from the research grants. I built a machine learning model to detect financial anomalies, and my voice cracked. The signatures, the approval stamps, they all lead back to the foundation's board treasurer. Your mother, Nathan finished, setting his coffee down and leaning closer to examine my analysis. The same mother who spent 20 years reminding me I wasn't as naturally gifted as Mackenzie, I said bitterly. The same woman who turned every one of my academic achievements into a conversation about my stepsister's latest modeling campaign or charity event. My phone buzzed with a notification. Speaking of the devil, a message from Mackenzie, Mom's going crazy planning next month's gala. Says you have to come this time, no excuses. Nathan squeezed my shoulder, his eyes still fixed on the data streams flowing across my screen. What are you going to do? I closed my analytics dashboard, my decision crystallizing like a perfectly structured database. I'm going to that gala, I said, but not for the reasons they think. I arrived at the foundation's offices earlier than usual, my laptop bag heavy with the encrypted backup drives I'd prepared. Victoria's assistant, Hazel, was already at her desk organizing the day's schedule. Her dual monitors displayed a complex array of calendar appointments and email threads. Evelyn, what brings you to the administrative floor? Hazel's smile was genuine. She'd always treated me with kindness, appreciating my help with her database management issues. Just needed to drop off some data analysis reports, I lied smoothly, patting my laptop bag. Is my mother in? She's meeting with Caleb, Mackenzie's fiancé. Something about the gala sponsorships and digital marketing strategy. Perfect. I slipped into my mother's empty office, my heart pounding as I connected my specialized USB drive to her computer. The encryption software I'd developed would give me remote access to her files, leaving no trace in the system logs. What exactly are we looking for in all this data? Nathan asked later that afternoon as we combed through the downloaded files in my private office. The screens around us displayed multiple data streams and analysis windows. Patterns. Transactions. Anomalies that show. I stopped, staring at a new email thread I'd decoded. Here, look at this visualization. Correspondence with Caleb's investment firm. They're using the gala's digital payment system to launder money through fake charitable donations. Nathan whistled low. Your mother and future brother-in-law are quite the team, while Mackenzie plays the perfect social media influencer, completely unaware she's being used as their digital front. The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. My phone lit up with my mother's caller ID. I answered, keeping my voice steady. Darling, I need you at the dress fitting tomorrow. Mackenzie's chosen the most stunning gown for the gala's live stream, and we simply must find you something appropriate. I could hear the implied criticism inappropriate, meaning understated, forgettable, nothing that would overshadow her golden child's Instagram presence. Of course, Mother, I replied, watching another suspicious transaction pattern emerge on my screen. I wouldn't miss it. After hanging up, I turned to Nathan, who was still analyzing the data streams. I've spent my whole life being the good daughter, the quiet one, the one who never caused trouble. But they crossed a line. This money was meant for medical research, for helping people. What's your plan? Nathan asked, pulling up the gala's digital guest list on his tablet, board members, donors, press, social media influencers. The perfect audience, don't you think? Mother always taught us that presentation is everything. Nathan's eyes widened as he realized what I was suggesting. Evelyn, this could destroy your family. I thought about the patients waiting for the research grants that never came, about the scientists whose projects were shelved because the funding mysteriously dried up. I thought about years of being made to feel less than, of watching my mother's casual corruption hiding behind Mackenzie's perfect social media presence. No, I said, my voice stronger than I'd ever heard it, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I began compiling my evidence into an unassailable digital presentation. This will free my family. They just don't know it yet. I started gathering the evidence into a digital dossier, my hand steady as I encrypted file after file. The gala was in 3 weeks, just enough time to ensure every data point was verified, every transaction traceable. Mother always said I had a talent for detailed analysis. Time to show her just how right she was. These donation records are full of inconsistencies, Nathan said, spreading multiple screens worth of data across my office monitors. Look at this pattern, $500,000 from a company that doesn't even exist in any public database. I leaned closer, scanning the algorithmic analysis. The past week had been a blur of late nights and coffee-fueled data mining sessions. Shell companies, I confirmed, running another pattern recognition scan. They're all shell companies, aren't they? Your mother's digital footprint is clever, I'll give her that. Nathan pulled up another spreadsheet. But she made one mistake. She got greedy with the metadata. A knock at my office door made us both jump. Mackenzie stood there, looking perfectly put together as always in her designer outfit, ready for her next Instagram story. Surprise! I brought lunch. I scrambled to minimize windows while Nathan casually switched my monitors to a default analytics dashboard. Mackenzie set down a paper bag from my favorite deli, her expression curious. Am I interrupting something? You two look like teenagers caught downloading movies illegally. Her laugh was light, but her eyes were sharp. Just boring data analysis stuff, I said quickly, trying to sound casual. What brings you here? Can't a sister bring lunch without an ulterior motive? She perched on the edge of my desk, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming against the glass surface. Although Victoria's driving me crazy with this gala planning. The social media campaign alone is exhausting. Nathan cleared his throat. I should get back to my department. After he left, Mackenzie's carefully maintained influencer smile faltered. Caleb's been acting weird lately, she confided, lowering her voice. Secretive, always on encrypted calls with Mother. My heart skipped a beat. Oh, I mean, I know they're working on gala stuff, but... She shrugged, trying to look nonchalant. Sometimes I feel like I'm just a prop in their perfect digital narrative. For the first time, I really looked at my stepsister. Behind the flawless makeup and practiced Instagram smile, I saw something familiar, the same trapped feeling I'd been fighting all these years. Mackenzie, I started, but my phone buzzed, a text from Hazel. Your mother's looking for the Foundation's digital audit logs. Says you have access. I should go, Mackenzie stood up, smoothing her dress. Photo shoot for the gala's social media campaign. Mother insists on capturing the perfect family moment. She rolled her eyes. After she left, I called Nathan. We need to move faster. Mother's looking for the audit logs. Already on it. Meet me at the coffee house in 20 minutes. I've found something in the blockchain transactions. The cafe was busy enough to mask our conversation, its ambient noise providing perfect cover. Nathan slid an encrypted USB drive across the table. I traced the shell companies through their digital footprint. They all lead back to Caleb's investment firm. But here's where it gets interesting. The money is being routed through a complex network of cryptocurrency transactions. Classic, I took a sip of my Americano, my mind already mapping the data flow. But why? Mother's salary is more than generous. That's not all. Nathan lowered his voice, pulling up a secure messaging thread on his tablet. I found encrypted communications between your mother and Caleb discussing something called Project Legacy. They're planning to announce it at the gala's live stream. My phone lit up with a message from Mother. Darling, don't forget dress fitting tomorrow, 10 a.m. And please do something with your hair this time. The photographers will be there. I ignored it. What's Project Legacy? From what I can piece together from the metadata, Nathan said, showing me his analysis, they're planning to restructure the foundation, move all research funding to approved projects only, meaning projects that funnel money back to them through their cryptocurrency network. The realization hit me like a corrupted database crashing. They're not just stealing from existing grants, they're setting up a permanent digital pipeline, using Mackenzie's social media influence as cover. The perfect charitable face for their blockchain scheme, Nathan added. I thought about Mackenzie's earlier words about feeling like a prop in their digital narrative. She has no idea, does she? Speaking of no idea, Nathan nodded toward the cafe entrance. Caleb had just walked in with my mother, both absorbed in their tablets. We ducked behind our laptops, but they were too engrossed in their screens to notice us. They sat at a table near enough that snippets of their discussion drifted over. The announcement will be perfect, my mother was saying, tapping her tablet emphatically. Mackenzie on stage, presenting our vision for the Foundation's digital future. And the old guard won't know what hit them. Caleb replied with a smirk, his fingers flying over his phone's keyboard. I felt sick to my stomach. They were going to use Mackenzie to announce their own corrupt scheme, making her an unwitting accomplice in their digital fraud. Back in my office, I pulled up the gala preparations folder on my encrypted drive. Mother had already scripted everything, the speeches, the photo ops, even the exact moment Mackenzie would announce Project Legacy to their live stream audience. We can't let this happen, I told Nathan over our secure chat that evening. They're not just stealing money anymore, they're trying to legitimize their corruption through blockchain technology. What's our next move? I stared at the gala's digital invitation on my screen, featuring Mackenzie's perfectly filtered smile. We need to talk to Hazel. She handles all the Foundation's digital correspondence. She must have access to something we've missed. That's risky, Nathan warned through our encrypted video call. She's your mother's right hand in all their digital operations. True, I picked up my tablet, studying the invitation's QR code. But Hazel's always had a soft spot for me, and more importantly, she believes in what the Foundation is supposed to stand for. Be careful, Evelyn. The closer we get to the gala, the more vulnerable our digital trail becomes. I thought about Mackenzie, about all the researchers counting on these grants, about years of watching my mother's casual corruption destroy everything she touched, all hidden behind a perfect digital facade. Some things are worth the risk. Hazel's hands shook as she transferred the files to my secure drive. I always knew something wasn't right with the network traffic, but this. She glanced nervously at my mother's empty office across the hall, its glass walls reflecting the blue light from our screens. If she traces this back to me. She won't, I assured her quickly, my software already encrypting and copying each document. The security logs won't show any trace. You're doing the right thing. The Foundation's board meeting minutes, Hazel whispered, bringing up more files. Victoria's been doctoring them for months. The real versions are very different from what she's been uploading to the cloud. A door slammed somewhere down the hall. Hazel jumped, quickly closing windows. Go now. I slipped out just as Caleb's voice echoed through the corridor. Victoria, we need to discuss the live stream announcement. I ducked into the stairwell, pressing myself against the wall as their voices drifted down. Everything's arranged, my mother said, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Once Project Legacy is announced, the board won't have a choice. The press will be there, the major donors, all our social media followers, and Mackenzie. She'll do exactly what she's told. She always does. Their footsteps faded toward the executive suite. I waited until the coast was clear, then rushed to Nathan's tech lab. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, pulling me inside. "Better." I connected my secure drive to his workstation. Hazel came through. "Look at these meeting minutes. Mother's been systematically falsifying the board's digital records about where the money's going." Nathan scrolled through the files, his eyes widening. "This is huge, Evelyn. With this evidence." The lab door burst open. Mackenzie stood there, mascara streaking her usually perfect face. "I need to talk to you." Nathan and I exchanged panicked looks. How much had she discovered? "Caleb's cheating on me," Mackenzie blurted out. "Not what I was expecting." "What? How do you know?" "I found messages on his cloud backup." She collapsed into a chair. "But it's worse than that. He's been having encrypted video calls with Mother almost every day, planning something big, something about the foundation." Nathan caught my eye. He nodded slightly. "Mackenzie," I said carefully, "what do you know about Project Legacy?" Her perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together. "The new digital initiative? Mother says I'm announcing it at the gala livestream. Some kind of blockchain integration to make the foundation more efficient." She paused. "Why?" "Because it's all fake." The words tumbled out before I could stop them. "The whole thing is a front for digital money laundering. Mother and Caleb have been stealing from research grants, and they're planning to use your social media influence to make it all look legitimate." Mackenzie stared at me, then laughed shakily. "That's ridiculous. Mother would never. I mean, she's always been obsessed with our online presence, but..." "Look." I pulled up the evidence on my secure workstation. "These are the real numbers, the shell companies, the cryptocurrency transactions." As Mackenzie read, her face transformed from disbelief to horror to anger. All those times they were planning the gala's social media strategy together. Nathan said gently, "They were actually planning this. They're going to have you announce it during the live stream, make you the face of their scheme." Mackenzie stood up abruptly, pacing the lab. "I always knew Mother was controlling, but this, using my Instagram following to steal from sick people." She whirled to face me. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Would you have believed me?" I asked quietly. "Over Mother's perfectly crafted narrative?" She stopped pacing. "No. Probably not." A bitter laugh escaped her. "God, I've been so stupid. The perfect daughter, doing exactly what she's told, posting exactly what she's told to post." My phone buzzed, a text from Hazel. "Victoria's looking for the original digital records. She knows something's wrong. We need to move fast," I told them. "Mother suspects someone's breached her security." "What are you planning to do?" Mackenzie asked. "Expose everything at the gala's live stream. You'll destroy her online empire." "She destroyed herself," I hesitated, "but I can't do it alone. I need your help." Mackenzie was quiet for a long moment, twisting her engagement ring around her finger. Finally, she pulled it off and set it on Nathan's desk with a decisive click. "Count me in." Her voice was steel. "Nobody uses my social media presence as a prop in their corruption scheme. Not even Mother." Nathan cleared his throat. "Not to interrupt this touching sister moment, but we have another problem. Look at this email chain I just decrypted." We crowded around his workstation. Mother had sent instructions to the Foundation's IT department to perform a complete system wipe, scheduled for the day before the gala. She's scrubbing her digital footprint, I said, my analyst's mind already calculating countermeasures. Then we better make sure we have everything backed up before she does. Mackenzie pulled out her phone. I know Mother's passwords, all of them. She made me memorize them in case we ever needed emergency access to the Foundation's social media accounts. For the first time since this began, I felt real hope. Together, we might actually pull this off. The gala's in 2 weeks, Nathan reminded us. Mackenzie's smile was fierce. Perfect. Just enough time to plan our own little viral moment. Smile, darling. You look like you're at a funeral. Mother adjusted my dress for the 10th time as the boutique seamstress pinned the hem. The gala's live stream is a celebration, not a wake. If she only knew. I forced a smile, catching Mackenzie's eye in the mirror. My stepsister was perched on a velvet settee, pretending to scroll through Instagram while actually recording every word through her phone's hidden audio app. The press will be there, Mother continued, fussing with my hair, the governor, key donors, top influencers. Everything must be perfect for our social media coverage. She turned to Mackenzie. Darling, have you memorized your speech for the Project Legacy announcement? Every word, Mother. Mackenzie's voice was honey-sweet. Though I was thinking of adding my own personal touch to the live stream. Mother's smile tightened. Stick to the script, dear. This isn't the time for improvisation. The seamstress finished her work, and Mother swept out to take a video call, leaving Mackenzie and me alone in the fitting room. Did you get that? I whispered. Mackenzie played back the recording. Mother's voice rang clear. The governor's office has already approved the digital restructuring. Once the announcement goes live, it's a done deal. Another piece of evidence, I stepped down from the platform, careful of the pins. How are things with Caleb? He's suspicious, keeps checking my phone when he thinks I'm not looking. She lowered her voice. Last night, I found him trying to access my cloud backup. Did he find anything? Please, she rolled her eyes. I learned from the best. Mother taught me everything about keeping digital secrets. Her smile turned bitter. Ironic, isn't it? The boutique door chimed its digital welcome tone. Nathan walked in, pretending to be lost. Sir, this is a private fitting, the saleswoman began. Oh, Nathan. Mackenzie called out. Right on time to help with our social media content. Mother returned just then, ending her video call, her face darkening at the sight of him. What is he doing here? I invited him, Mackenzie said smoothly. We need a tech-savvy eye for the livestream aesthetics, don't we? And since Caleb's so busy with foundation work. Mother's expression shifted from annoyance to satisfaction. Of course, dear. Though perhaps someone more qualified. Actually, Nathan interrupted, I came to discuss the latest data analytics reports with Evelyn. Time-sensitive matters. Work, Mother sighed, checking her smartphone. Evelyn, dear, you really must learn to separate your professional and personal life. The gala's digital launch is in 10 days. I know, Mother, I replied, my own phone silently backing up another set of incriminating files. Everything will be perfect. After Mother left to berate the saleswoman about lighting options, Nathan pulled out his tablet. Hazel sent another encrypted file. Look what she found in the Foundation's archived cloud storage. I looked at the screen, my breath catching. There it was, the original proposal for Project Legacy, dated 2 years ago. But instead of a charitable initiative, it outlined a complex scheme to redirect research funds through cryptocurrency transactions. Mother's been planning this digital heist for years, Mackenzie whispered, reading over my shoulder. There's more, Nathan said. Caleb's firm isn't just managing the money. They're creating fake AI-generated research projects to justify the funding transfers. The boutique door chimed again. Caleb walked in. "Hide the screens," I hissed. Mackenzie immediately draped herself on Caleb's arm, playing the adoring fiancé. "Darling, what a surprise. We were just discussing the gala's social media strategy, weren't we?" Caleb's eyes flickered between our hastily darkened devices. He nodded toward Nathan. "Digital marketing emergency," Nathan said dryly. "Apparently, I have an eye for viral content." Mackenzie took Caleb aside, but their voices carried clearly in the boutique's perfect acoustics. "Your mother's worried," Caleb said, his voice tight. "Says you've been accessing unusual areas of the network." "I'm just trying to understand my role better," Mackenzie replied, her influencer smile firmly in place. "For the announcement, stick to the script," the same words Mother had used. "There's too much at stake." After they left, Nathan turned to me. "They're getting nervous about their digital security." Good. I checked my phone, a new message from Hazel. "Your mother just called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow. Something about cybersecurity concerns. She's moving faster than our analytics predicted," Nathan said. "We need to be ready." I looked at my reflection in my darkened monitor screen, the perfect daughter in the perfect dress for the perfect digital gala. Mother had spent years crafting this image, using both Mackenzie and me as pieces in her elaborate online game. "Evelyn," Nathan touched my arm, his screen still displaying lines of encrypted data. "Are you sure about this? Once we release this information into the digital sphere, there's no going back." "I'm sure," I said, closing the final encryption protocol. Mother always taught us that online presentation is everything. Time to show her just how well we'd learned that lesson. "The board meeting tomorrow," he said, running a final security check. "If she's implementing the system purge I think she is, we need our countermeasures in place." I picked up my phone to text Mackenzie through our secure messaging app. "Tell Caleb you're spending the night reviewing your social media strategy. Meet us at my place at 8. The response came immediately, "I'll bring wine." We're going to need it. The pieces of our digital puzzle were in place. Now we just had to survive the next 10 days. The board meeting was a disaster, Hazel whispered through our encrypted video call. I had her on my secure tablet as Mackenzie, Nathan, and I huddled around my home office desk. "Victoria's convinced there's been a security breach. She's ordered a complete system lockdown. Can you still access the network?" I asked, watching Nathan run his decryption algorithms on my spare monitors. "No, but..." Hazel lowered her voice further, glancing over her shoulder. "I made backups. Everything. I'll upload them to your secure cloud storage." After ending the call, Mackenzie poured more wine into our glasses. "Mother video called me 3 times today. She wants me to move the Project Legacy announcement to the beginning of the live stream instead of after dinner. She's rushing it. Trying to get ahead of any potential data leaks," Nathan said, still typing. "She knows someone's accessing her files." My phone lit up with a notification. Caleb was calling. I showed the screen to Mackenzie. "Don't answer," she warned. "He's been monitoring my online activity. Yesterday he tried to access my cloud storage while I was sleeping. We need to move faster." I pulled up our encrypted evidence folder. Hazel's digital backups would be the final piece. Once we had those, a knock at my door made us all freeze. Through my apartment's smart doorbell camera, I saw Mother standing there, perfectly coiffed despite the late hour. "Places, everyone," I whispered. Nathan grabbed his laptop and slipped into my home office while Mackenzie quickly hid our evidence drives under my couch cushions. I opened the door. Mother. It's almost midnight. Can't a mother check on her daughters? She swept in, her sharp eyes taking in the wine glasses and Mackenzie's presence, then scanning my array of monitors. A little late for a social call, isn't it? Wedding livestream planning? Mackenzie said smoothly, I needed sister time. The social media pressure is getting to me. Mother's smile didn't reach her eyes. How sweet. Though I hope these sisterly bonding sessions aren't distracting you from your announcement preparation. Actually, I interjected, minimizing windows on my screens. I've been helping her practice. Want to hear it? Mother's laugh was like breaking glass. Darling, no offense, but public speaking has never been your strong suit. Remember your high school graduation? That awkward valedictorian speech that barely got any views? Mackenzie stood up. Mother, stop it. Evelyn's been incredibly helpful with the technical aspects. Has she? Mother's gaze swept the room, lingering on my hastily darkened monitors. And what else has your sister been helping with? The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Before anyone could respond, a notification sound came from my home office, Nathan's signal that he'd finished wiping his browser history. Mother's eyes narrowed. Do you have company? Just me, Nathan emerged, the picture of casual innocence. Late-night database consultation. You know how it is with analytics deadlines. Indeed, Mother's voice could have frozen the internet. Evelyn, darling, a word in private. She led me to the kitchen, her manicured nails digging into my arm. Whatever digital trail you think you're following, stop it now. I don't know what you mean. Don't play dumb. It doesn't suit your data analyst persona. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. You've always been the clever one, haven't you? Hidden behind your screens, watching, analyzing. But this time you're out of your depth in the digital world. Am I? The foundation is my life's work. I won't let anyone's cyber investigation destroy that. Not even yours. Her smile turned predatory. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? The server access logs, the encrypted files. My heart stopped. Mother. I'm moving the announcement to tomorrow night, she released my arm. A private preview event. Just key stakeholders and family. No public live stream, no social media, no digital footprints. That's not the plan. Mackenzie protested from the doorway. Plans change, darling. Be ready at 7. Mother headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Evelyn, I've suspended your department's network access pending a security review. Of course, we can't be too careful with our digital assets. After she left, we all stared at each other in shocked silence. She knows, Nathan said, emerging from the home office. She's cutting off our access. Not yet. I pulled out my phone, opening our secure messaging app. Hazel, change of plans. We need those files tonight. The security protocols. I don't care anymore. Mackenzie was already grabbing her coat. I'll create a distraction at the foundation, say I need to practice in the event space. I'll handle the back-end systems, Nathan added. If she's locked down the main servers, there might still be a backdoor through the backup drives. My phone buzzed with a text from Caleb. Whatever digital trace you're following, drop it. Some things are bigger than family. He's right, I said, showing them the message. This is bigger than family. That's exactly why we have to expose their digital fraud. The Foundation's preview event buzzed with nervous energy. Board members mingled with investors, their smartphones and tablets glowing like fireflies in the dimmed lighting. Mother held court near the podium, resplendent in midnight blue, while Caleb hovered nearby, constantly checking his security alerts. "Stop fidgeting with your tablet," Mother hissed as I passed. "And for heaven's sake, fix your hair. The photographers will be here soon." I touched the encrypted drive hidden in my clutch, remembering last night's frantic data extraction. The files were devastating. Mother had no idea we'd managed to breach her security just hours before her system purge. 5 minutes until the announcement, Caleb announced, his voice carrying across the room. "Everyone, please take your seats and silence your devices." Mackenzie appeared at my elbow, looking stunning in emerald green. "Ready," she whispered. Hazel's in position, mirroring everything to our secure cloud storage. She squeezed my hand. "Once this live stream starts, there's no stopping it." Ladies and gentlemen, Mother took the stage, practically glowing under the professional lighting. "Thank you all for joining us on such short notice. Tonight marks a new chapter in our Foundation's digital future." I slipped away toward the AV control room while she spoke, my heart thundering. Nathan was already there, pretending to adjust streaming settings. "All cameras are live," he whispered. "Every board member just received an anonymous email link. They're all watching our private stream on their devices. And the backup's running, even if they cut the main feed, everything's being recorded to our offsite servers." Mother's voice filled the room through the speakers. "And now, I'm thrilled to introduce my daughter, Mackenzie, who will share our vision for Project Legacy." Applause erupted as Mackenzie took the stage. She looked perfectly poised, exactly as Mother had trained her to be. But I saw her hands trembling as she gripped the podium. "Thank you, Mother." Mackenzie's voice was clear and strong. "Before I begin, I'd like to share something personal about our digital transformation." Mother's smile flickered. This wasn't in her scripted social media plan. "All my life, I've been the face of this foundation's digital presence," Mackenzie continued, her voice steady despite Mother's warning glare. "The perfect daughter, the charitable influencer, the cover story. But tonight, I'm choosing to be something else, honest." Caleb started moving toward the stage. I nodded to Nathan, who activated our prepared presentation. The screens behind Mackenzie lit up with financial records, email chains, cryptocurrency transactions. "Project Legacy isn't about charity," Mackenzie continued as gasps filled the room. "It's about digital fraud, corruption, stealing from the sick and desperate to line private cryptocurrency wallets." "That's enough." Mother's voice cracked like a whip. "Security. Cut the stream." I stepped onto the stage beside my sister. "The evidence has already been uploaded to the FBI's servers," I announced. "And Hazel is broadcasting this live to every major news outlet." The room erupted in chaos. Board members jumped to their feet, phones recording everything. Caleb tried to reach the AV control room, but Nathan had locked down the systems. "You ungrateful little," Mother lunged for the podium, but Mackenzie stood her ground. $300,000 from the Cancer Research Fund, Mackenzie read from the screen, $500,000 from pediatric studies, all laundered through Caleb's investment firm into offshore crypto accounts. "You have no idea what you're doing." Mother snarled. "The people we answer to will all be investigated," I finished. "Every shell company, every fake grant, every donor who helped you steal from sick children through your digital fraud scheme." Caleb finally reached the stage. "Victoria, we need to shut this down now." But Mother wasn't finished. She grabbed the microphone. "Everything I did was for this foundation, for our family's digital legacy." "No." Mackenzie's voice cut through the chaos. "It was for you, always for you, using my social media influence as your perfect distraction while you rob the people we promised to help." Security guards appeared at the doors, but they weren't Mother's usual team. Hazel had called in the real police. Victoria Winters. An officer approached the stage. "We need you to come with us." The look Mother gave me could have crashed 1,000 servers. "I gave you everything, both of you. This is how you repay me?" "You gave us lessons in manipulation and digital deception," I said. "Consider this our final system upgrade." As they led Mother and Caleb away, the board members crowded around us, their devices still recording, questions flying from all directions. Through it all, Mackenzie held my hand, both of us standing tall under the glare of camera flashes and screen lights. "Miss Winters." A reporter had somehow gotten past security. "What happens to the Foundation's digital presence now?" I looked at Mackenzie, who nodded. "We start over," I said, transparently, honestly, the way it always should have been. "And Project Legacy," someone called out. "Will be exactly what it claims to be," Mackenzie answered, her voice strong. "A fresh start, a true legacy of helping others, not exploiting them." As the chaos continued around us, Nathan appeared at my side, his laptop showing confirmation of our secure backups. "You did it." "We did it," I corrected, watching Mother's perfect digital empire crumble. "All of us." The police station buzzed with activity as Mother sat across from us, her designer outfit wrinkled from hours in holding. Her makeup had smeared, but her eyes remained sharp as encrypted data. "You've made your point," she said coldly. "Now delete the evidence." Mackenzie laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Delete the evidence? The FBI has already seized the Foundation's servers. Caleb's trading information for a lighter sentence. It's over, Mother. Your digital house of cards has fallen." Mother leaned forward. "Do you have any idea how many networks you've disrupted? The connections you've severed? The donors. The donors are cooperating with the investigation," I cut in. "Turns out nobody wants their IP address connected to a charity fraud scandal." The detective entered, placing a thick file of printed evidence on the table. "Mrs. Winters, we found additional cryptocurrency wallets in the Cayman Islands. Care to explain?" Mother's lawyer touched her arm. "My client exercises her right to remain silent." "That's a first," Mackenzie muttered, closing her social media apps. Through the glass windows, I could see reporters camped outside the building, their cameras and phones ready to capture any new developments in the scandal that had rocked the city's philanthropic tech community. "Miss Winters," the detective addressed me, "we'll need your complete digital forensics report about when you first discovered the discrepancies." For the next 2 hours, I walked them through everything: the missing research funds, the shell companies, the cryptocurrency transactions. Mackenzie added her own testimony about Caleb's involvement and the planned announcement. "Your mother's looking at serious federal cybercrime charges," the detective said finally. "Both of them are." The amount of money involved, the sophisticated nature of the scheme, we're talking significant time. Nathan was waiting outside the interview room. "The board's called an emergency meeting. They want you both there now." Mackenzie checked her phone. "It's almost midnight. Damage control doesn't sleep, especially not in the digital age." The Foundation's offices were eerily quiet as we rode the elevator to the boardroom. Hazel met us at the door, her tablet clutched to her chest, her eyes red from crying. "They've been in there for hours," she whispered, trying to salvage what's left of our digital infrastructure. Inside, the board members looked shell-shocked, their devices displaying real-time news coverage of the scandal. The chairman, an elderly man who'd known our father, spoke first. "Ladies, please sit down." He shuffled some papers, actual papers, as if he'd lost faith in digital records. "We've spent the evening assessing the situation. The Foundation's online reputation is salvageable, I interrupted, pulling up my data analytics dashboard. If we act fast and with complete transparency. The media is calling it the legacy virus, another board member said. Our online donors are fleeing. Mackenzie straightened in her chair. Then let me talk to them. I've been the face of this foundation's social media for years. Let me tell them the truth, that we discovered the corruption and chose to expose it ourselves. It's not that simple, one board member protested, scrolling through news alerts on his tablet. Actually, it is. I connected my laptop to the room's display. I've drafted a complete digital transformation plan, new blockchain-based oversight measures, transparent accounting, direct tracking between donors and the research they fund. Everything visible, everything traceable. The board members exchanged looks across their glowing screens. We need new leadership, the chairman said slowly, someone who understands both the technical and public aspects of our mission. I felt Mackenzie squeeze my hand under the table. We'd like to offer you both positions, he continued. Evelyn, as Executive Director of Technology and Compliance. Mackenzie, as Director of Public Relations and Digital Strategy. Together. Together? Mackenzie asked, her phone forgotten in her hand. Your actions, while shocking, showed integrity. Something this foundation desperately needs to rebuild in the digital age. As we left the building hours later, the sky was starting to lighten. Reporters immediately swarmed us, cameras and microphones thrust forward. Miss Winters, how does it feel to expose your own mother's digital fraud? What's next for the Foundation's online presence? Mackenzie stepped forward, every inch the polished spokesperson, but this time with genuine authority in her voice. The Foundation is entering a new era of transparency and authentic charitable work. My sister and I look forward to leading that change. Miss Winters. More voices called from the media crowd as we saw Caleb being led out of the federal building, his designer suit wrinkled, his smartphone confiscated. Will there be more arrests? I stepped up beside Mackenzie. The Foundation's future isn't about the past, I said firmly. It's about the researchers working to save lives, the patients waiting for breakthroughs, and the donors who genuinely want to help. That's the only story that matters now. Nathan appeared with his car, offering escape from the media frenzy. As we drove away, Mackenzie finally broke down. I loved him, she whispered, deleting Caleb's contact from her phone. Or thought I did. How did we not see through their digital facade? We saw what they wanted us to see, I replied, watching the city wake up through the car window. Just like everyone else online. The board meeting tomorrow, I started. Today, Nathan corrected, glancing at the dawn breaking over the city's skyline. Today, Mackenzie agreed. We start rebuilding everything they corrupted. I thought about Mother sitting in her cell, probably already planning her next digital scheme, about all the years she'd spent teaching us to maintain perfect online appearances while hiding ugly truths. We're not rebuilding their foundation, I said, pulling up our new security protocols on my tablet. We're building our own. The right way, this time. Guilty on all counts, the judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. Mother stood perfectly straight, her designer suit a stark contrast to the handcuffs at her wrists. She didn't look at us as they led her away. Caleb had already taken his plea deal, trading information for a lighter sentence, but Mother had insisted on fighting, convinced until the end that she could manipulate her way out of anything. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us again. This time, we were ready. The verdict sends a clear message, I said into the forest of microphones and cameras. No one is above accountability. Not even family. Miss Winters, the Foundation's new digital research initiative has already raised millions. Was this your response to your mother's crimes? Mackenzie stepped forward, her social media influence now used for genuine good. Every dollar stolen from sick children will be repaid threefold. That's our promise. Back at the foundation, Hazel had arranged a staff meeting. The boardroom was packed, researchers, developers, grant coordinators, all waiting to hear what came next. Their tablets and laptops glowed with anticipation. The trial's over, I announced. Now we focus on what matters, the work. Dr. Reynolds' cancer study needs additional server capacity, someone called out. Approved, Mackenzie said, checking her tablet. Along with the stem cell research team and the rare disease initiative. All funding streams are now publicly traceable. But the infrastructure budget is solid, I assured them. Every donation is now tracked in real time on our public blockchain. Donors can see exactly where their money goes, down to the last cent. After the meeting, Nathan found me in my office. You haven't opened it yet. He nodded at the encrypted email on my screen. Mother's last attempt to communicate before sentencing. Nothing she says can change anything. Maybe not, but you might need to read it anyway. I opened the email. Mother's words were as precise as her code. Evelyn, you think you've won? Perhaps you have. But everything I did was to secure our position, our influence. You'll understand someday when the weight of digital legacy bears down on you. Power requires sacrifice. Remember that. Mother Mackenzie appeared in my doorway as I deleted the email. Still trying to justify herself? Still trying to teach her lessons about power and control, I said, pulling up our latest transparency report. Speaking of which, the university called. They want us to give a guest lecture on ethical leadership in the digital age. Us? Mackenzie laughed. I'm not exactly professor material. No, you're better. You're living proof that people can choose integrity over influence. The intercom buzzed. Hazel's voice carried through. The governor's here for the system audit. We walked together through the foundation's halls, now bright with literal and digital transparency. Glass walls had replaced solid ones, and interactive displays showed real-time grant activities and research progress. The governor waited in the lobby, surrounded by aides. Impressive changes, he said, gesturing at the screens. Very modern. Would you like to meet some of our researchers? I offered. Dr. Reynolds is about to test a promising new treatment protocol. Actually, he cleared his throat. I was hoping to discuss the Foundation's political connections. Your mother had certain arrangements. Those arrangements died with the old system, Mackenzie cut in smoothly. But we'd love to show you how your state's medical research grants are advancing critical studies. Mother had taught us well about handling powerful people, just not the way she'd intended. Our new legacy would be built on something stronger than deception, truth, transparency, and the courage to maintain both in the digital age. So, Nathan called from behind us, checking his security alerts about that system audit. I exchanged looks with Mackenzie. We both smiled. Another challenge, another day. But this time we were fighting for something real, and that made all the difference.